Today on Newsgirls, Trump Epstein Doodle-gate. Trump drew the outline of a naked woman. He wrote this imaginary conversation between him and Epstein.
This pro-MAGA bot posted, "It's time we demand transparency and justice for all victims involved."
An accidental discovery changes how we see the galaxy.
And so the American Museum of Natural History actually reached out to us and told us about this.
What are you talking about, a spiral? I've never seen that before.
Do we know when it formed? And Burnout Survival Guide.
66% of Americans experience job-related burnout.
So how do you not fall into the trap of being like, if my friends are out, I have to be out too?
And now you're being educated from your For You page.
Welcome to Newsgirls.
I'm Wren.
And I'm Mabel.
Let's get into the stories.
So the political story that's taken DC and the world really by storm the past couple weeks has been the Epstein files and to what extent President Trump has been involved. And originally we, the Newsgirls, were not going to cover it just because it's been everywhere, like everyone's been talking about it. But in light of Trump's recent legal battle against the Wall Street Journal and other details that have started coming out, we decided that it was worth it to tell the story.
But before we get into the news, should we be upfront and tell everyone about your personal connection?
Yes. So Epstein was the first big story I worked on at 60 Minutes. I worked on the story for like 6 months and had these like huge 4-inch binders like on my desk. And the piece was originally going to be about like the Justice Department and how it was super corrupt because it kind of hid all of his sexual abuse crimes. But then we got these like autopsy photos before any other media publication. And the story kind of became about whether his death was a murder or a suicide. And yeah, that was like my first big 60 investigation.
Yeah, that's cool. But the best part is that you gave me this pin that says Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yep.
I'm gonna put it on.
That's the lore. We were talking about it while we were writing the story, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't know where my pin is. Wren was like, oh, I have it. And then it was just like on her bookshelf.
No, I keep it like right when you walk in my apartment.
A prized possession.
That will be here for the rest of the story.
And here we are just 6 years later, and this is still the biggest story going on right now. So over the weekend, the Wall Street Journal reported on the existence of like a creepy leather-bound album that was gifted to Epstein for his 50th birthday. And it was from 2003, filled with like letters and photos from Epstein's best friends. And Trump makes a surprise appearance.
Yeah, in the book, Trump drew the outline of a naked woman like with arcs for her breasts. And he put his like scribbly signature like below her waistline to look like pubic hair. And I guess on her body, he wrote this imaginary conversation between him and Epstein. So should we read it like in character?
Yes, definitely.
Do you want to be Trump or Epstein?
I'll be Epstein. It's a loaded question.
I didn't know which one you were going to pick. Okay, so I'm Trump.
Yes.
Mabel's Epstein.
Yep. So the letter starts with like, it says voiceover, : there must be more to life than having everything.
Then Trump says, yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is.
Nor will I, since I also know what it is.
We have certain things in common, Jeffrey.
Yes, we do, come to think of it.
Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that?
As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you.
He just like works in a compliment to himself. A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret.
That's so creepy. I can't believe he actually wrote that.
Like, how else can you take that?
Oh, no. And Trump, of course, denied writing the letter or drawing the picture. So he said, this is not me. This is a fake thing. It's a fake Wall Street Journal story. I never wrote a picture in my life. Okay. I don't draw pictures of women. It's not my language. It's not my words. And then his son, Don Jr., came to his rescue, posted on X, the insanity written in the Wall Street Journal ain't it, and everyone knows it. Also, in 47 years, I've never seen him doodle once.
And that is why we call this story Doodle-gate, TM Newsgirls. But CNN dug up that Trump actually has a long history of donating drawings that he did to charity auctions. There's literally the pictures. Like, we'll put the pictures up. He did one of a tree with dollar bills falling off of it that was signed Donald Trump in gold Sharpie and sold for $8,500. It's actually not terrible.
Bad, yeah.
And then he did another one, a drawing of the Empire State Building that sold for $16,000 at Julian's auctions in Los Angeles in 2017. That one literally looks like a second grader did.
It's not impressive at all. And then that same year, a sketch of the New York City skyline with his signature in like gold marker sold for $29,000. And apparently one of these 3 drawings will be up for auction again in September.
How is anyone paying $30,000?
Literally, and again, it's weird that Trump is just discrediting himself because he's preparing to file a $20 billion libel lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for publishing the article. He said, I'm going to sue the Wall Street Journal just like I sued everyone else. And he even banned a Wall Street Journal reporter from coming on Air Force One this week.
And of course, Rupert Murdoch owns the Wall Street Journal. So now we have 2 of the most influential conservative voices squaring off against each other. And MAGA's already split because they are turning on Pam Bondi and even some of them on Trump for doing this 180 on releasing the Epstein files. So taking on the king of Fox News is kind of a risky move.
Right. So the TLDR, because we're sure most of you are keeping up with this, is that MAGA world is melting down over the way that this is all being handled because Trump and his administration promised to release the Epstein files before he was elected. And now, after he became president, his FBI director, Kash Patel, promised that there'd be no cover-ups, no stone would be left unturned, and that hundreds of FBI workers were on the case. And then, of course, Pam Bondi said she was releasing them multiple times and just never did.
But then last week, the DOJ released a memo saying there was no Epstein client list and that nothing from the investigation will be made public. So obviously this created such an uproar, and Trump denied having anything to do with that decision and said it's completely up to Bondi and she should make whatever decision she thinks is best. But this has been such a cornerstone of what Trump even campaigned on and what his base was really rallying for. So even like very notable people have turned on him, like Alex Jones, Laura Loomer, unsurprisingly, Elon.
Yeah, he literally alleged that the FBI was withholding Epstein documents during his feud with Trump in June. He wrote on X, "The truth will come out," and then deleted the post.
Oh, yeah. So to try to put out this fire, Bondi did then call on a judge to release the grand jury testimony.
Which experts are saying is a cheap trick to kind of satiate everyone's anger because it's highly unlikely that a judge will release these transcripts anytime soon. And if the judge does, former prosecutors are saying that the transcripts will be less than 100 pages, even though everyone is expecting this trove of thousands of pages. And it'll probably be witness interview summaries that we've all seen before, and everything else will remain under seal.
So now Trump's like, why does anyone care about this? And how are we still talking about this guy? And even called the people pushing for these files to be released troublemakers. And he's blaming Obama and Biden, which doesn't make any sense if you look at the timeline, which Amy Klobuchar said well on State of the Union this weekend.
So the president blaming Democrats for this disaster, Jake, is like that CEO that got caught on camera blaming Coldplay, okay? This is his making. He was president when Epstein got indicted for these charges and went to prison.
And it looks like MAGA is so split on the issue that even hundreds of bot accounts that train on pro-Trump accounts to post positive messages about the president and the administration have started malfunctioning and are so confused because of the rift that they're seeing. So this pro-MAGA bot posted, "Pam Bondi's attempt to escape with the Epstein client list is laughable. It's time we demand transparency and justice for all victims involved. Hashtag Epstein fail. Hashtag no more secrets." Epstein fail.
And then the next day, the same account posted, "Retweet if you agree that it's time to take a stand against mob mentality and support Pam Bondi.
Literally.
Hashtag no mob mentality. Hashtag Bondi for truth." And we know this is a bot because it has the classic bot username. It's first initial, last name, and a bunch of numbers. And the fake hashtags, nobody tweets like this.
It's so embarrassing. And the experts are saying that the split reaction mimics the organic reaction that we're seeing from Trump supporters and influencers. And this all adds up because if you think of the deepest roots of MAGA philosophy, it's that there are these hidden elites kind of running around creating a deep state in America, covering up their own crimes. So of course, everyone is just so pissed that Trump is potentially involved with Epstein and then not releasing all of these documents.
And even though Trump in recent years has said he was never an Epstein fan and he barely knew him, there is a 15-year record of them being buddies, obviously, which we saw with the birthday card. But they met in 1990 when Epstein bought a property 2 miles north of Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach.
And since then, there have been flight logs of Trump on Epstein's Boeing 727 private jet at least 7 times, and photographs of the two of them together at events, like in 1992 when Trump hosted a party at Mar-a-Lago for young women in a calendar girl competition, and Epstein was the only other guest invited.
That is so weird. Imagine you're one of the women competing, and you look out and it's just these two guys.
Two of them.
And actually, the girlfriend of the guy who had arranged that event for Trump later accused Trump of sexual misconduct at that party. And that's not the only disturbing crossover. In 2000, Ghislaine Maxwell, so Epstein's right-hand woman, recruited one of Epstein's most prominent victims, Virginia Giuffre, in the locker room at Mar-a-Lago. She was working there as a spa attendant. She was 17 years old, and we all know the abuse that she ended up enduring for years.
And then there are allegations of a 13-year-old under the pseudonym Katie Johnson who claimed that Trump raped her at Epstein's home again when she was only 13. And interestingly, those filings were withdrawn years ago. But people are now calling for more details on that story. And there are several more allegations from Epstein victims saying they encountered Trump or were groped by him. One even said that Trump should be investigated by the FBI back in 2006.
Yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of similarities between them, which Trump actually said himself. He told New York Magazine, Epstein is a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side.
That's literally so gross and like incriminating. Like, of course you guys are friends. Why are you denying that?
But then, to everyone's surprise, in 2004, Epstein and Trump broke up. It was after an ugly fight over a piece of real estate, which is actually called, okay, sorry if I butcher this, Maison de l'Amitié, which is a French Regency-style mansion that sits on the ocean in Palm Beach. And I guess they each had their lawyers competing and like bidding on this property, but Trump ended up winning for $41.35 million.
And then there's little public record of the two really interacting after that. Reportedly, Trump told his associates that Epstein acted inappropriately towards the daughter of a member of Mar-a-Lago, and so then Trump felt compelled to like ban him from the club after that.
Well, that last part is what Caroline Leavitt offered as proof that they were never friends, that he banned him from the club. But I just think it's interesting that the final straw for Trump was that he was inappropriate with a friend's daughter. Like, regardless of how much he knew about what Epstein was doing, like, it's not okay if it looks bad on Trump.
And so now with all of this like Epstein stuff going on, all we can do really is wait. Speaker Mike Johnson said he's not planning on holding a House vote to release the Epstein files before September. And Trump is doing everything he can to distract from Epstein. His administration even released the MLK files earlier this week. Like, anyone is even asking for that. So we'll see if the strategy works. But we know that if public anger over this subsides, it's just a matter of time until it's back again, until this matter is closed once and for all.
So last week, Mabel and I had the pleasure of going to the American Museum of Natural History and seeing their brand new space show. I guess every 5 years they roll out a new show, and it was super immersive, so cool. It's like you're in the domed like planetarium, and these like images are like shooting across, like it feels like you're there in space.
Yeah, it was so cool. Ren and I were talking about how it's been so long since we've been to a planetarium, and it was just like so beautiful. I felt like we were there on like a first date or something. It was like really
it is
romantic.
The stars, like gazing up at the stars with someone. I turned to Mabel at the end and I was like, okay, whoever came up with the idea for the sphere in Vegas was definitely had gone to a planetarium and was like, I have an amazing idea, because it literally feels almost like you're moving. You guys, we are in the planetarium. It's so pretty. We're so excited to see the film Encounters in the Milky Way.
And the space show was so cool. It was narrated by Pedro Pascal, so it had this like little like star factor to it. And what made it so cool was that while the team was making this space show, they actually made a real space discovery that changes how we see the galaxy.
Yeah, they discovered that the Oort cloud that surrounds our solar system is actually a spiral shaped, and nobody knew that until they were making this movie.
And so the American Museum of Natural History actually reached out to us and told us about this discovery and invited us to the show, and we were so excited.
And they set up an interview for us with acclaimed astrophysicist and senior scientist at the museum and curator of this brand new space show, Dr. Jackie Faherty.
Okay, so Jackie, can you walk us through the process of making this show for the planetarium? It just sounds like such a cool job.
Yeah, I've never made a movie before. I'm not a movie maker, but what I am is a planetarium person. And what we have this amazing planetarium here in New York City called the Hayden Planetarium. There's a lot that's happening in astronomy, and stories that I feel like you guys should know. I like to call it's the science that hasn't reached your textbook yet. And we're going to give it to you in a Hollywoodized take. We had a writer, we had a director, we had a technical director, we had a producer, we had an executive producer, and we would sit in a room and we would talk through what the story would look like. Where do we start? How do we make sure the concepts aren't too high, but that are high enough that people will walk away and be like, that was something, that they were beautiful, that it also made you feel things when you were in there. So it was a very, very creative process from the start all the way to the end. And as the scientist, it was my job both to ensure that we never got any of the science wrong.
What was the story you were hoping to tell? It's called Encounters in the Milky Way.
Yeah. So sometimes I think of it as a little bit like a Dr. Seuss story. And one of them is like, oh, the places you'll see and the places you'll go. And I thought of that as kind of what this was. It's, oh, the places you see and oh, the places you'll go, because you're in motion. Because you, right now, us, all three of us, are tied to this rock that we call Earth. We're spinning around, we're moving around the sun, but then our sun is catapulting through the galaxy at a speed that we can't comprehend because it's moving very fast for us as it takes a trip. 230 million years for it to do one lap around the galaxy. We don't get to see all that much of the journey, but on this show, we get to show you. So the concept is motion and time and taking you on an epic journey over time that you don't get to experience because the human lifetime is just too limited.
What was like the most different kind of experience for you? Because you say, this was a really creative process and you're mostly rooted in the science part. You had to work with lots of different kinds of people, like artists and producers and astronomers.
Yeah, the thing that I was like so psyched about was working with the technical directors. I wish I had them working on my research team every day, because what they're able to do with the data set is bring to life these concepts and this look that as astronomers, we struggle to do with each other because we're just kind of limited in our tools, and the mathematics behind it is far more important. That to me was the key, the visual artists.
It was also, I would say, the audio was quite appealing. So we would be remiss if we didn't ask, how did the narrator Pedro Pascal come to be?
All of us on the core team wrote down the names of people we thought would be amazing. My number one was Pedro Pascal. My top reason is because he's Chilean, and the world's best telescopes are in Chile. Right around me in my office, you can see these images of telescopes I go to a lot, and they're all in South America and Chile. He was available. He does sci-fi. He's handsome. So
that's all you need.
You don't need that for the show, but it helps because the internet also loves him.
You and your team ended up making a scientific discovery while you were creating the show. Can you tell us about the discovery, like how you made it, how you came across it?
What we do show in the space show is this scene that no one's ever visualized before, and that is the solar system's Oort cloud, which is the leftover material from when the solar system formed. So when solar systems form, it's not like the planets are formed and that's it, and then all the area around you is cleared. There's all this leftover scraps that could have formed a planet, or could have formed an asteroid belt, or could have smashed back into the sun, but it didn't, and it's just held gravitationally by the sun. And it goes out pretty far. It goes out over a light year in radius, like a light year and a half in radius. So all around us, and it's our solar system because it's all still held on by the gravitational force of our sun. So we went to the world's leading expert in visualizing the Oort cloud, best simulation anyone's ever done on the Oort cloud, but he hadn't looked at it in 3D. So we were doing these volumetric renderings of it. There's this weird shape inside of it. What's with the spiral structure in the Oort cloud? An S shape that was in there. And he's like, what are you talking about, a spiral? I've never seen that before. And then he digs into the data and immediately sees it. And basically his quote was, it was there in the math, but we needed the visuals to pull it out.
Do we know when it formed? Like how old, how long the Oort cloud has been in this like structure?
The shape? Oh,
Shape,
great
yeah.
question. In the simulation, now we can run it forward and backwards and see over time if that S shape dissipates. The Oort cloud itself is as old as the solar system. So it's 4.5 billion years old, the same age that we are, because it formed when we formed.
And does this change at all? You mentioned how for most of us on Earth who aren't studying astronomy, we hear of the Oort cloud really only when comets come close to Earth. Does this change at all how we should think about comets like coming into our orbit?
We can use the structure to help us understand if our solar system were going to get dynamically evolved. You know, like one of the things you want to know, if another star flies by, and we do have a scene of this in the space show, and it disrupts our Oort cloud and it just sort of scatters all of our stuff out, that's like our leftover material that ended up becoming life. Our solar system is the only one that we know has life in it. So you're going to want those ingredients. That's the OG ingredients of life, whatever's in the Oort cloud, because it's the OG stuff that created the solar system. That's going to get scattered out. It gives you the right starting point for creating all sorts of long thought experiments on how to consider the universe, maybe the evolution of life in the universe.
That's what makes this discovery so cool, is that this data was kind of sitting there, and then you guys came in and did some reanalysis and just discovered it, and it was just like laying dormant for a while. What other discoveries could just be sitting there in data waiting to be found, like seen with new eyes?
So many. Even in this space show, there's so much to discover. The last like 10 minutes of the show, we show this simulation that no one's ever created before. It took us almost a year on a supercomputer to run this simulation.
Wow.
And if you come to our planetarium, to the Hayden, you'll see it at the highest possible resolution we could give it to you at. There hasn't been enough time for us astronomers to look at that simulation and pull out everything that we're seeing. So you can come and look and then see something. Maybe you're going to see a star forming bubble interacting with another one and have some dynamical interaction that makes you scratch your head and say, why did those clouds interact like that?
We are here with Olivia Shabo, the host of For You From Eve, a self-growth, self-love podcast, and we are excited to pick your brain about something that I think everyone struggles with at times, burnout.
Mm-hmm. So we were doing some research into different kinds of burnout, and it seems like burnout about like work and jobs is kind of the biggest one. And we saw this statistic where 66% of Americans experience job-related burnout, which is crazy. Wow. So can you just explain to the audience what that is, and especially when it comes to like people's careers?
Yeah, so as someone who's always worn like a lot of hats with my career, like going to school, doing a podcast, working babysitting, a corporate job, like I was doing like 4 or 5 things at a time because I was in the city as well. And I felt like in the city, especially if you're in a busy city, you feel the need to perform and match the people around you. So I feel like when it comes to burnout, it's very hard because if you're not working hard enough, you feel guilty. And then when you're working too hard, you get burnt out.
Totally.
And I feel like in the summertime as well, like I was thinking about this on my way over here, and I was like, when the UV's like 8 or 9 and I'm working, I feel guilty. And I'm like, wow, I'm not enjoying my days.
Yeah.
Oh, and then if I'm inside all day working, it's like, okay, great. Like now I'm missing on the sun and I'm missing on the weather. So I feel like it's so hard, especially nowadays too. And I think because of social media, obviously, we see so many people with so much success stories, and we're like, we're only going to be like that if we work 100 times harder. And instead of taking like micro habits and baby steps, we just try to like do everything at once. I think that's like the biggest problem. People try to do everything that is working for other people.
So breaking into like down advice, like how do we get out of this? So it sounds like the first thing is mental. Like you can't do everything. You just have to accept you cannot do everything at once. And like, how do you prioritize what is important? And maybe it changes depending on the stage of life you're in.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is people aren't even doing what works for them anymore. They'll see what's like working for other people on social media, and they're like, okay, let me do what this girl does. And that's like a fraction of her day that you're seeing that you're trying to squeeze in, like editing 12 hours into like 30 seconds. So I feel like a lot of the time we see all these like this productivity stuff on social media and we just get overwhelmed. So the first thing I would say is figure out what it is you actually want to be prioritizing. Like, what are you actually passionate about? Don't just be starting a podcast because everyone else is and you see it successful. Like, what makes you happy to the point where I always said this with my podcast, because the first 2 years I didn't make a penny off my podcast. Like, even like 3 years into it, nothing. So like, what would you do every single day, even if you weren't getting paid for it? Yeah. And I think once you put your time and energy into something like a hobby like that, it won't really feel as much of burnout because you're just doing something you love.
That's so true. That's how we felt like when we started Newsgirls, because we got to finally tell our own stories and like do our own interviews, and like it felt so fulfilling that even though we were pulling crazy hours, like 14-hour days, like for weeks on end, it didn't feel like that because we felt so lit up inside by it.
Especially in contrast to like our previous jobs where like, I guess like another kind of burnout that's not talked about as much, because when you think about burnout, you think of being so like overwhelmed by so much. There is the burnout, which like I've definitely felt at other jobs where you're not being like challenged enough. Like if you're not being told what to do, if you're not being validated, if you're not being compensated, and you're feeling very like underwhelmed and undermotivated at your job, you can also experience like another kind of burnout where you're just like frustrated and detached from reality. Yeah. And that's like such a different kind.
I think that's really common in the corporate world because a lot of time you see what money you're getting at the end of the month and that's what your goal is. They don't have passion in what they're doing. So a 6-hour workday could be like so miserable, and then you like get home from it, all you want to do is cook dinner and scroll on your phone. Like people are forgetting that like life doesn't end after your 9 to 5. Like you are allowed to go out to dinner with your friends like on a Wednesday night. Like I feel like that's also why burnout happens. Like people,
it's true.
It's so crazy. Like I feel
that's
like
a crazy idea.
I don't even know.
So I think once you like pull yourself out of that and you're like, there's so much more to life than just working and sitting at this desk all day, like you don't experience burnout as much.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, especially because I feel like in our early 20s, you kind of like had this work hard, live for the weekend mentality, and now like we're like older, and so we're not really doing that anymore. So if you're not living your weekdays like to its fullest potential, life can feel very empty. Yeah. And then you feel like that kind of burnout.
Yeah, and then you want to have all your fun plans on the weekend, but then it becomes exhausting because you're like up so late and you're like running around.
Exactly.
And then you go back to the week, that's also exhausting. So you never take a break for yourself.
In this economy, from what I'm seeing, it's like I feel like we have to work 100 times harder to make it. Like I literally step out of the house and I spend like $100 and I'm like, what did I even do?
No,
like I got gas and a coffee. Like that's it. So I feel like now too, it's like we're also getting burnt out because no matter how hard we're working and how much we're being rewarded, it's still not enough. Like it's no matter what, you still can't afford the nice car or the house or the wedding. And it's like, you look back and you're like, how the hell did our parents afford all these things? Like it's so crazy. And I think right now it's really being hit, especially because the unrealistic things that we see. And because of the social media world, people are making $75,000 for one TikTok. So it's like, you might not understand why you're not at that point for your age. I think it becomes very like demotivating for people.
And then another type of burnout we were thinking of is like the social burnout. So like on the flip side of the career, like especially in the summer, we feel like pressure. You have to go and you have to have fun. You have to be drinking that Aperol Spritz on the rooftop and like taking the pictures. Yeah. So how do you not fall into the trap of being like, if my friends are out, I have to be out too?
I feel like social burnout nowadays too is also kind of connected to finances as well. Like I feel like I have a wedding every weekend. There's like a trip every weekend. It's like, how am I supposed to afford this? And then your social battery runs. So like, I'm somebody, my social battery, it's like when it's gone,
it's gone. Yeah.
It's gone. Like get me home or no one here will like me. So I feel like with social burnout, you need to have that time for yourself. Like set a day of the week where a few hours of that day you're by yourself. You're walking by yourself. You're not talking to somebody. You're texting somebody. You simply are just alone. I feel like people can't like get dinner by themselves or watch a movie by themselves anymore. And I think when you prioritize that time alone and then you mix in like that social life, I feel like that's when you get like a good balance of the social burnout.
Yeah. And you mentioned like social media burnout, like especially when you're seeing all of these like influencers and celebrities like living these crazy lives. We saw that you did a podcast episode on kind of like changing up your social media algorithm to kind of do what like to kind of, because people live in their phones. So it's like, how do you kind of mess with your algorithm so that it can do what's best for you? So because it's hard, like you can't fix all types of burnout. You can't fix the financial. Sometimes you can't fix the job stuff, but social media burnout, maybe you can fix.
Yeah. I feel like with social media, I use it to my advantage, and I think that's how everyone should. I never use it to compare. Like, comparison really is the thief of joy when it comes to social media. So no matter what you're doing, there's going to be someone on your phone doing better, no matter what. So my biggest thing is just learning from the people on there. So if you want to get into cooking, you should be searching every healthy cooking video on TikTok possible. If you want to get into politics, you should be searching these things up. Like, your algorithm will listen to you. So whatever you're searching up, workouts, cooking, politics, whatever it is, you save that content, you share that content, you engage with it, and that's going to just start naturally coming up. And now you're being educated from your For You page. Like, my For You page is all like routines and health and wellness. And then my partner's is like video games and sports, but then also like real life news. And then that way you're like learning from your social media. Like, this Pinterest, no one thinks Pinterest is toxic. Everyone thinks Pinterest is fun, because why? You're saving the things that you like.
Yeah. That's true. The quote, like, I can never get out of my head that I heard probably on TikTok is like, life used to happen and then you'd go on your phones. And now it's like, life happens on your phones and then you like emerge, and like, that's the rare time. So that is such a precious moment. Like, you're really putting hours and hours, like, seeing your screen time every week is a little depressing.
It is.
So,
like, I was like sick last week and it was like 14 hours. And I was like, oh my.
That's brave of you to say publicly.
Seriously, I couldn't tell you one thing I learned that day.
I know.
It's crazy.
And that's, so if you can be like feeling good about that time and adding a little value maybe would be good.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe.
And next week we're coming back with everyone's favorite feel-good segment, Not Awful News.
Bye.